Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We are jumping right into a really incredible spatial journey to explore the geographic foundations of one of the world's oldest and most vibrant civilizations. We're going to look at exactly how this massive landmass came to be positioned on the globe and what that specific placement means for its history, its trade, and its future. So think about this for a second. How does one single country's location influence the geography, the flow of time, and the ancient trade of an entire hemisphere? When we think about a nation's history, we usually focus on the people or the politics, but the actual ground they walk on, its sheer massive scale and its strategic placement has historically shaped its connection with the rest of the world just as much, if not more. All right, here's our itinerary for today. Number 1, India on the map. 2, measuring the subcontinent. 3, the standard time quirk. 4, crossroads of ancient trade. And finally, 5, India and its neighbors.
Okay, Section 1, India on the map. Let's get a sense of its global placement. From a global perspective, India sits entirely within the Northern Hemisphere. If we pull out the exact coordinates mapping this vast space, the mainland extends between latitudes 8 degrees 4 minutes north and 37 degrees 6 minutes north. And on the horizontal axis, it stretches between longitude 68 degrees 7 minutes east and 97 degrees 25 minutes east. That very specific set of coordinates puts it right at the heart of the developing world. Now, when we call this landmass vast, let's look at what that actually means in numbers. India covers 3.28 million square kilometers. To put that into perspective for you, that accounts for exactly 2.4% of the entire globe's geographical area. This staggering footprint makes India the 7th largest country in the world, standing proudly right alongside giants like Russia and Canada. Moving right along to Section 2, measuring the subcontinent.
Remember those latitude and longitude coordinates we were just talking about? Both the latitudinal and longitudinal extent of the mainland span roughly 30 degrees. But here is a really fascinating geographical illusion. Despite being 30 degrees in both directions, the actual physical north-south distance is 3,214 kilometers, which is noticeably larger than the east-west extent of 2,933 kilometers. It's just a perfect example of how spherical coordinates translate to actual miles on the ground.
The sheer scale of the borders required to contain this nation is just mind-blowing. India boasts a massive land boundary of about 15,200 kilometers, largely hugged by young fold mountains in the northwest, north, and northeast. Then, if you look at the coastline, including the Andaman and Nicobar and Lakshadweep island groups, it stretches an incredible 7,516.6 kilometers. And right through the middle of the whole thing, the Tropic of Cancer at 23 degrees 30 minutes north slices the country into two nearly equal halves, dividing its geographic climate zones.
Before we jump to the next part, I want to share a sobering but absolutely fascinating piece of trivia that reminds us that geography is never truly static. While the mainland ends at Cape Comorin, the absolute southernmost point of the entire Indian Union was historically known as Indira Point in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. But during the devastating 2004 tsunami, this specific geographic marker was completely submerged by seawater. It just goes to show how the Earth's natural forces are constantly redrawing the maps we rely on.
All right, Section 3, the standard time quirk. I want you to imagine the human experience of this geography for a second. Because the Earth rotates, and India spans about 30 degrees of longitude from the west in Gujarat all the way to the east in Arunachal Pradesh, there is a literal time lag of 2 hours in solar time. Someone in the east sees the beautiful morning sunrise 2 full hours before someone in the west even sees a glimmer of light. If you called your friend out west to say good morning, you'd absolutely wake them up, even though your watches display the exact same time. So how on earth does a massive country manage that without plunging into total logistical chaos?
Well, the answer is the standard meridian of India. Instead of juggling multiple different time zones, India selected the longitude of 82 degrees 30 minutes east as its anchor. This specific line passes right through Mirzapur in Uttar Pradesh, and the time along this meridian is locked in as the standard time for the whole country. So the latitudinal extent influences the duration of day and night as you move south to north, but that longitudinal standard meridian ensures the trains run on one unified schedule.
Let's zoom out again for Section 4, crossroads of ancient trade.
India is honestly the ultimate strategic hub. Looking at trans-Indian ocean
India
routes, you
is
can
a
see India
strategic
is a
hub.
southward extension of the Asian continent.
It is the
located
international
squarely
highway
between
of
East
trade.
and West Asia. Notice how the Deccan Peninsula prominently protrudes right
India
into the Indian
is a
Ocean?
strategic hub.
That physical thrust into the sea helped India establish
It is the
really
international
close contact
highway
with West
of
Asia,
trade.
Africa, and Europe from its western coast, and with Southeast and East Asia from its eastern coast. Literally no other country has a coastline on the Indian Ocean quite like it, which totally justifies naming an entire ocean after it. Now get ready for a massive data drop that changed global commerce forever. 7,000 kilometers. That is exactly how much the maritime travel distance between India and Europe was reduced following the opening of the Suez Canal in 1869. Imagine the sudden, absolute explosion of trade and communication when you instantly shave 7,000 kilometers off your shipping route. But hey, long before the Suez Canal, ancient travelers still found a way. It's actually really important to note that India's relationships through land routes are much, much older than its maritime contacts. For a very long time, those vast oceans severely restricted interaction. It was the various mountain passes in the north that provided the crucial passages for ancient travelers, unlocking the subcontinent to the world. And these physical routes created a profound cultural exchange. We're not just talking about moving goods here. This was a massive flow of ideas. Outbound from India, the concepts of the Upanishads and the Ramayana, the stories of Panchatantra, the Indian numerals and the decimal system reached countless parts of the world, along with, of course, highly priced spices and muslin. Inbound, this exchange brought the influence of Greek sculpture, as well as distinct architectural styles like domes and minarets from West Asia, which you can still easily spot across India today. Which brings us to Section 5, India and its neighbors. Today, India holds a major strategic position in South Asia. Internally, the country is comprised of 28 states and 8 union territories. It stands distinctly apart from the rest of Asia, creating its own entirely unique subcontinent dynamic. But to truly grasp the modern map, we need a quick bit of historical context. Prior to 1947, the internal borders looked totally different. India consisted of 2 types of states. You had the provinces, which were ruled directly by British officials appointed by the viceroy, and then you had the princely states, which were ruled by local, hereditary rulers who acknowledged sovereignty in return for local autonomy. So, the modern map of 28 states is actually a massive unified evolution from that fractured past. Let's quickly trace India's immense geopolitical footprint through its land boundaries. To the northwest, it shares borders with Pakistan and Afghanistan. Moving up to the north, it touches China, specifically Tibet, along with Nepal and Bhutan. And then over to the east, it borders Myanmar and Bangladesh. It is effectively encircled by this incredibly diverse array of cultures and political entities. And of course, we can't forget the maritime neighbors. Looking to the south across the sea, the neighbors consist of 2 island countries. Sri Lanka is situated just off the southeast coast, separated from India by a narrow channel of sea formed by the Palk Strait and the Gulf of Mannar. And further southwest, you'll find the Maldives Islands, sitting just to the south of India's own Lakshadweep Islands. And that brings us to the end of our explainer today, but I want to leave you with one incredibly powerful thought. We've seen the sheer size, the mountainous borders, the protruding coastlines, and the strategic coordinates. So I have to ask you, how do the very oceans, coordinates, and mountains that geographically contain a nation ultimately shape its destiny and its relationship with the world? It turns out, geography isn't just about drawing lines on a map. It's the very stage on which the entire drama of human history is written. Thanks for joining me on this spatial journey, and I highly encourage you to keep looking closer at the maps that define our world.